Recording. Hello and welcome to the second podcast in our series of live events, giving you a taster for the upcoming IOC World Conference on the Prevention of Injury and Illness in Sports, which is taking place in Monaco this year between the 12th and 14th of March. My name is Thomas Axon. I will be your host today. I'm a junior doctor based in London, currently undertaking a Master's in Sports and Exercise Medicine at the University of Bath. For those of you that don't know, the IOC Conference is the premier international conference of sports and exercise medicine, representing preeminent international authorities in injury and illness prevention. For those that don't know, the final day for registration is the 2nd of March, and there are a host of special discount offers for students and through affiliated organisations. As this is a live event, please feel free to send in any questions you have via Facebook to our next guest, who we referenced so heavily in our first podcast, we thought it'd be rude not to have him on, Dr. Andrew Murray. Dr. Andrew Murray works as the Chief Medical Officer for European Tour Golf, responsible for their worldwide medical operations and research. He previously worked full-time for the Scottish Government in public health policy. He also worked as the Senior Associate Editor for the BGSM, assisting efforts on knowledge translation. Incredibly, Andrew also ran 4,300 kilometres from North Scotland to the Sahara Desert. It is a pleasure to have you with us, Andrew.
Thanks for having me on.
No, by any chance that isn't you on our promotional flyer, is it?
Yes, that was me running across the Namib Desert. I'm a pasty ginger Scotsman, so 48 degrees was much too hot for me, and I'm very much looking forward to the IOC conference. I was there in 2017, and it is the best conference I've ever been to, not only in terms of the content and the stuff like Beat the Heat, so that would have been great for me to learn when I was running across the Namib Desert. A fantastic keynote by Seb Rassine. There's all sorts of good content there though, but yeah, I think the last time I went to Monaco, I learned a ton, but it was also just a brilliant opportunity to network and spend some time listening and spend some time sharing stuff. And very much looking forward to it in 2020. Again, there's some great stuff. Really looking forward to injury prevention stuff with Wim Mouissa, which is talking not only about the theory of it, but actually implementation. What can we do to get it done? How can we make a difference to cut illness and injury rates for our athletes? Beat the Heat, again, fascinating for me personally. But also really thinking about injury prevention in youth sport. I think that kids of the future, some people will say different, but if we can actually implement these programs and provide stuff that can help people prevent injuries before they occur in children, then we're all in a really good place. And I think, something else that I think when I looked at it, I was just like, man, I'm just so much looking forward to it, is when not to play. When not to play is actually a reasonable thing to do, and who better to discuss that than Mike Turner? So personally, there's a few highlights that I'm looking forward to Monaco, looking forward to contributing a workshop on illness and injury prevention in golf with our head of strength and conditioning at the European Tour, Dan Coughlin, and also looking forward to, I suppose, taking this around. So as I say, fantastic conference, superb experience, amazing venue, and cheap at twice the price.
No, it's going to be great fun. If it's okay with you, we'll jump straight in. Do you mind telling the audience a little bit about sort of your background and how you ended up in sports and exercise medicine?
Yeah, I just absolutely love working in sport and exercise medicine. I spent some time as a junior doctor working abroad. So I worked in Australia and New Zealand doing some anaesthetics, ICU, A&E, doing some general practice. I also did expedition work, working in outer Mongolia, in the jungles of Indonesia, spent some time out in Antarctica and things like that as well. So really had the opportunity to travel a bit. And that's part of what I love about sports medicine, is meeting people from different parts of the world that have got some great insights and that might really transmit across to what we can do. I currently work in various different sports. I've taken over from, the godfather of golf and health, Dr. Roger Hawkes, who's a phenomenal guy and a great mentor. I also do some work for Scottish Rugby a day a week, looking at the women and girls programme and the Scotland women's national team. I also work for the University of Edinburgh, doing some research myself, including my PhD, and also work for do some work in public health policy still, trying to get more people more active more often, recognising that, you know, being active, taking part in sport and physical activity is one of the best things that you can do for your health. So I just like the opportunity and the variety of stuff that goes on, and enjoy being active myself.
So you've got lots of free time then?
Absolutely. I've got 3 kids under 5, so they keep me busy as well.
Okay, as you mentioned, public health is something that you're heavily involved in. This is a broad question and most people have a general understanding of the topic. But if you could break down for us, what are the actual benefits of sport and physical activity for public health?
Yeah, I think the evidence is consistent and growing that regular physical activity is one of the best things that you can do for your health. And we talked about children earlier. I mean, imagine the best present you were ever given as a child. Imagine something that could give you better marks at school, something that could give you a longer length of life, something that could increase happiness, and something that could decrease more than 40 chronic diseases. And fair enough, you know, to give you the bad news, if you are regularly physically active, you are significantly more likely to get blisters on athlete's foot. But you do get 30% off an early death, between 30 and 60% off heart attacks, strokes, cardiovascular issues, type 2 diabetes, colon cancer, breast cancer, dementia, depression, anxiety, all of these sort of things, and also loss of function. You know, if you're physically active, you're more likely to be able to function and to enjoy yourself for longer. I think, you know, the number one thing about regular physical activity in sport is it can increase happiness. So I think that's why I do it. I think that's why I've played sport all my life. And there are additional benefits that you can get from sport as well as physical activity. I think the social aspect of it, the emotional connections you can get. And I think that people also sometimes recognise that sport can be powerful, but we can also promote other forms of physical activity more widely. For example, walking. You know, it's not difficult. If you get off a step early, if you take the stairs rather than lifts, these little interventions can make a big difference to your own health, to your family's health, and to your patient's health as well. So, you know, regular physical activity really is one of the best things that you can do for your health. And to quote Mike Evans, we all are busy. We all really struggle to generate the time, but can you limit your inactivity to 23.5 hours per day? And you'll be doing yourself a very big favour. It also improves productivity significantly. So I think, you know, regular physical activity is a big contributor. And in terms of health and performance, some of the other things we have learned from athletes is that, you know, good quality sleep can really improve productivity. Eating the right sort of stuff, which Scotland's not really famous for, but we try. And there are really simple things that can make a big difference to performance. And again, you know, rather than spending all our money on fancy equipment and stuff like that, which really can help, doing the basics well can contribute to a longer length of life and also to better performance in sport, I think.
Couldn't agree more with you. I know, as you mentioned in our intro, you currently work as the CMO for European Tour Golf. Using sort of golf as an example, specifically, what are the health benefits of golf for the general public? So
golf has benefits for people of all ages. It is a sport that you can play from 3 to 103. It's something that I've personally played with my children and also with my father and my mother as well. So, you know, it is a sport for the ages as well, because sport has many, many benefits. I also love playing football and rugby and tennis and squash and cricket and, you know, all these good things. But I can be pretty confident I'll still be able to play golf when I'm 70 or 80 as well. So I think it is a sport that can set you up in terms of something that you can have physical activity for life, really. And it's also very inclusive as well. I mentioned Roger Hertz earlier. Again, he's the Chief Medical Officer of the European Disabled Golf Association. And watching the quality of the play that some of the golfers in that circuit have is just absolutely incredible. You know, so it can be played by all of society. And again, you know, efforts within golf are welcome to make it more inclusive, to make it more welcoming, to increase participation amongst women and girls and for people of all backgrounds. But specifically in concrete terms, it is and can provide moderate to vigorous physical activity. It can combat sedentary behaviour. There are likely significant strength and balance benefits for older adults. I know Professor Maria Stokes at Southampton University and Professor George Salem across at the University of Southern California and doing some great work looking at strength and balance in golf and older adults. So really it's quite comprehensive in terms of the types of physical activity it can likely provide, and further research is required. But again, some really good research that's going on a rapid review by Jack Luskin looked at this in detail. And I suppose if you look at the evidence as well, as a physical activity is likely to have longevity benefits. And there was a big study in Sweden that showed associations with a longer length of life, golfers living 5 years longer than non-golfers after controlling the various factors. Now, again, that can't show a cause and effect relationship, but it is likely that golfers can live longer and that playing golf and being physically active can contribute to that. It can also tend to improve some of your cardiovascular markers in terms of cholesterol, in terms of pulse rate, in terms of blood sugar, etc. Studies haven't really shown any benefit in terms of blood pressure, but that may be something that's there. But what golf can also do is that there are some benefits in terms of self-efficacy, self-confidence, and well-being benefits. Further study is certainly needed looking at depression, anxiety, dementia, etc. But there's some evidence that is starting to crop up for that. But I guess, the scoping review that we published in 2016 looked at some of the actual benefits, but also looked at some of the drawbacks of golf. We know that golf is a moderate risk sport for injury. Roger shared that in amateurs, the most common injuries are to the spine, the lumbar spine, the thoracic spine, cervical spine, as well as to the elbow. You also do get injuries to the left wrist and a right-handed golfer in particular. And amongst our professionals, a systematic review looking at injuries by Paddy Robinson showed that injuries to the left wrist and a right-handed golfer and the back and the neck are the most common in the pros as well. You also do have an increased risk of skin cancer. Golf is typically played in the sunshine unless you live in Scotland. And again, we've had some of our players on tour that have had skin lesions that required removal, and we have set up a service to screen for skin cancer and to particularly, take proactive steps in terms of advice regarding sunscreen, times of the day to play, appropriate clothing to wear, etc. But to sum up, golf would appear to have overall health benefits, much like many sports. Its particular benefit is that it can be played by people of all ages and is, truly intergenerational. And it might be quite unique in terms of it can be one of the few sports that our spectators are active. So we did a study at an event in Scotland that showed that the average spectator took a mean 11,500 steps, which exceeds the Chief Medical Officer recommendations for physical activity. And actually, by giving them an intervention and having their heroes talking about, can you beat Rory? Can you get more than 10,000 steps? Can you beat Paul Lawrie? Can you get more than 10,000 steps? People learned a bit more about physical activity, and 3 months after were more active potentially as a result, or certainly 40% reported increased physical activity. And wouldn't that be great, if we can provide some wider health promotion to many of our sports? And I think, there's some great initiatives by, Jiri Dvorak and the team and Astrid Junga when they're at FIFA, 11 plus, really good injury prevention programs, but really some really positive public health messaging to do with stuff like sexual health and to do with stuff like malaria. Again, rugby, there's all sorts of good stuff going on in terms of injury prevention, but Stephen Griffin is looking to do a PhD looking at rugby and health and what are the potential benefits as well as the potential risks, like, for example, concussion and like shoulder and knee injuries. So I think overall there are significant benefits to sport. There are some issues that can arise, and it's about how do we implement it? How do we get more people into sport and physical activity, so maximise the benefits, and also how can we decrease risk by implementing programmes for illness and injury prevention?
I think all very salient points. What would your advice then be for the general public to get them more active? You've mentioned a few things there, but any specific?
Yeah, I think in terms of messages to the general public, it's not really for doctors to tell people what to do, but it's to give them information. Videos like 23.5 hours was enormously powerful. And a lot of the really good research and the likes of the BJSM and the Lancet has really shone a light on the benefits of physical activity. I think some key messages are really something is better than nothing. And it doesn't need to be sport. Sport has a huge range of benefits, but even if you can sit less and to walk more, that can likely lengthen life and it can increase happiness and make you more productive as well. So walking 30 minutes 5 times a week or equivalent is absolutely fantastic for health. I think, again, urging folk to take the stairs rather than the lifts, if that's feasible, can have big benefits. But also, I think it is, as I've quoted before, the great Australian philosopher Kylie Minogue that said, you're never too late, you've still got time. just because you're 50 or 60 or 70 or 80, you're never too late to get active and get the huge range of benefits that are there. So really it is something that can offer benefits to everybody. And because it's that powerful, give it to your children, encourage people to be active, give it to your friends, give it to your family, get them engaged, get them involved, go out for walks, go for a walk with a coffee, have a walking meeting. It's just a great thing to do. And certainly I feel is a good source of ideas if I'm out and about. I just tend to have more ideas in the fresh air than I do cooped up in the office all day.
So your advice is just get active. Whatever it is, just get out.
I think so. And there's some great podcasts from BJSM that Professor Annette Mutri, one of my supervisors at uni, provided. Some really good simple messages. So I'd say they'd be 20 minutes really well spent, are the BJSM podcasts by Annette Mutri. I think in terms of if you're thinking about helping people get active, if you are a general practitioner, if you're a physiotherapist, if you are a nurse, if you're a pharmacist, just ask the question, do you know the benefits of physical activity? And people can make that decision for themselves and keep encouraging them. It's really difficult to actually make that sort of change, but it can be done. So just because you haven't succeeded the first time doesn't mean that we can't try ourselves to be active and also encourage others to do so.
I absolutely agree. Moving on to our next sort of question. With golf being a global sport these days, and golfers probably traveling as much as sort of any other athletes, do you have any sort of top tips or advice you give to golfers or athletes in general on how to stay well and perform while they're at their best while traveling?
You're dead right. So 60 million people play golf worldwide in 3/4 of countries. Some great stats from the RNA there. And it is a truly global sport in terms of it's rare that tournaments are in the same location every week. Our golfers in the European Tour are in Mexico this week coming up. Following that, they're in Oman, then Qatar, then Kenya, then India. So it is a truly global schedule. It's called the European Tour, but we really are absolutely all over the place. And we try and offer sensible advice regarding how folk can combat jet lag, how they can actually deal with sleep issues. Again, there's really powerful evidence that if you get decent sleep, you'll perform at your best, but you're far less likely to get ill, and even you are less likely to get injured if you're getting decent sleep. So we talk about how you can maximize the sleep environment, having a really consistent routine where possible, taking stuff with you that helps sleep, trying to ensure that you've got a really dark environment to get a kit, taking an eye shield and earplugs on aircraft can be invaluable in helping getting a kit, and maybe also a face mask nowadays with the coronavirus, I guess. And really also just getting yourself into that sort of routine for travel as well. So knowing what you're looking to do, making sure that you're well prepared in advance, having your team around you. And that's what we do, in terms of if we're offering advice and support, then we've got input from sports scientists. We've got very good nutritionists like Professor Graham Close and David Dunn and Hannah Mayo that do some great work that offer really bespoke advice. There are some apps like Jet Lag Booster that folk can really utilize to try and work out what they can do to improve their sleep. But often we actually get taught by the players. We'll reach out to the players and say, here's what we're thinking, what do you think? And they'll come up with some brilliant tips and some great ideas that can really support their own. And that's what we tend to do. We have some ideas, we sit and chat to the players, we try and work out things between us. And if we're sitting planning for the Ryder Cup, we're heading off to America for 2020, we're really player-led, stuff that works in terms of scheduling for flights across to America, in terms of what we should have on board, things that can help for people to feel fresh and at their best in terms of compression, in terms of food, keeping folk hydrated, minimising chance of illness. That stuff's all important, but please do, if you've got the opportunity, my email address is amurray@europeantour.com. Send through any resources, send through any information you've got. I'm always keen to learn.
That's very kind of you. Part of that as well, I know an area of research that you're sort of passionate about and heavily involved in is information sharing. How can researchers generate uptake, use, and impact of their work?
Again, I'm really interested in this. I did some work as a journalist, not really, but when I was doing some running, I made like a couple of programs about the running that I did, and got asked to write for various newspapers and to do some stuff for radio and TV and whatever. And I learned a ton from the people that are real experts in terms of making information simple and getting it across, so that essentially when I started doing research, I was really, really guilty of just trying to work out what to do, conducting the research and then publishing it. But spending some time listening to people like Chris Barton and Karim Khan, folk like that, are phenomenal at working out that it's also about producing assets. So looking to make podcasts or looking to provide video content, things like this. Podcasts are really good deep dive infographics. Again, we've got Danny Glover at the European Tour that makes some fantastic infographics. Jennifer Duncan, who again has made some fab intros in terms of for the keynotes. So please do go into the IOC conference website and look at the videos that Jennifer Duncan and Nim Pereira have put together. And again, Jennifer and Nim have really got it in terms of they're producing animation, they're producing podcasts, they're producing infographics, they're producing content, so bite-sized resources that can then be shared and across these sort of platforms in terms of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, things that have got a big volume of support. So I guess it's not only about doing the research and publishing in an engaging journal and open access if you can. So if you can persuade the university to make things open access, we think that increases citation rate, downloads and interest and uptake. Then producing some bite-sized information that can be shared in the form of blogs or infographics and knowledge translation tools, then sharing it widely, being really targeted, trying to reach out to folk that have got a bit of a following or might know folk they can share it with, getting that out. And then I suppose it's also about evaluating it, seeing if that's worked and learning from the approach. If we've tried stuff and it didn't work, then Einstein said the definition of insanity is to do the same thing again and expect different results. So doing stuff, and if it works, perhaps doing it again, milk the same cow. If it's not working, looking to change it up a little bit. And also just thinking about the type of research you're going to do. Try to do stuff that's perhaps engaging and impactful are some of the key lessons that I've taken away. But the bottom line is that, again, Chris Barton really suggested that it used to be about publish or perish, but now it's really get visible or vanish. Doing research is one thing, but trying to generate uptake and use and impact, so trying to get stuff to stick and to make it work is exactly, again, what the IOC conference is talking about. You know, when Melissa just talking about how we can take the research to implementation, how can we actually get stuff done, I think is the key question for us, because at Monaco there's so many successful injury and illness prevention programs that have been conducted, but in terms of at-scale intervention, that really is the challenge for all of us in sport. We're actually a bit further behind in golf. We're really learning from the likes of football and from the likes of rugby and tennis. Professor Babette Plum and her team have done some great work in tennis, and really thinking about how we can actually do the research to check out the true epidemiology of injury in golf, and then really build in injury prevention programs. But we can already do some basic stuff if it makes sense in terms of injury prevention. Back stuff, wrist stuff, shoulder stuff, things that can decrease injury. And in terms of illness, really focusing on the big broad pillars in terms of sleep interventions, making sure that folk are using hand sanitizer regularly when they're on course, when they're on aeroplanes, making sure that they're prioritizing eating the right sort of things, just all sorts of simple things that again can make a really big difference. I guess we always talk about the science of marginal gains, but if you get the big 10%ers first up, then some of us are still neglecting them, and I think that's been a learning curve for me, is, you know, focus on the most important stuff. I'll stop rambling now.
No, well, my next question was going to be, is there anything, a specific example of any sort of research which has been translated successfully to sort of a public health campaign that you're aware of?
I think I can speak for Scotland. I used to work as the government's physical activity champion, so just to clear that conflict of interest, and I still do some ongoing work. But it is one of the few countries that walking is going up. So I think that there's a few easy ones, really, in terms of low-hanging fruit before you even need to really go for coconuts. Walking can be cheap. Everyone, or most people, can do it. So really getting folk to sit less and move more, to quote Nanette again. Trying to really make that a key focus of messaging, really, and just telling folk it's okay. It's not all about sport. Sport is a phenomenal importance, but let's also get people to sit less and to walk more, as well as playing sport. And at that point, you know, a campaign was launched, policy action followed, frameworks were put in place. The Scottish Government has a walking strategy for Scotland, and recreational walking is on the up. More people are sitting less and walking more recreationally in Scotland. And that, I think, is due to the messaging and the efforts of the likes of the net and other leaders on that. I think another thing that, again, there's a really good podcast, BGSM, is the Daily Mile. So we have got, it's mandatory for kids in Scotland to have 2 hours of PE in primary school and 2 periods of PE in senior school. But on top of that, an inspirational head teacher called Elaine Wiley noted that the kids are more productive and more engaged in the classroom if they get out and go for a walk each day in the fresh air. So she took them out for roughly a mile walk, 15 minutes or so each day. And that made all the difference in terms of health and performance, and also in terms of happiness at the school as well. And that's been rolled out in Scotland to many, many schools, also down south. And actually on a global basis, I think there are, I'm guessing, but I think there's 100 countries or so that the Daily Mile has made a mark in. So worth Googling the Daily Mile, worth putting posters up on stairs to urge folk to take that. Just telling folk about the benefits. There's some great work going on in tennis and rugby and football looking at the health benefits of their sport. Again, work by Anne Gates and others that look at swimming in particular. And really publicising that, I think, has been important. So let's talk about the actual benefits of our sport and the public health benefits are there, and really get that messaging across, as well as talking about what can go wrong in terms of injury and illness, which is important to prevent. But let's not forget that sport has got overall health benefits for almost everybody. Maybe not if you run into the Sahara. I pretty much destroyed myself by doing that. Made myself very anemic and iron deficient, and looked as if my foot had been through a lawnmower. So there is probably such a thing as doing too much. But I think the vast majority of folk are probably less active than they could be rather than more active than they could be. And I think that's the simple thing, is find something you enjoy, sit less and move more, and let's really get the benefits of sport and physical activity out there.
Oh, I think that's a terrific message. I'm afraid that's all we have time for, though, so a good message to end on. You can catch more of Andrew at the conference with his workshop on the prevention of illness and injury in golf, which is run along with Daniel Coughlin. And you can find more about the IOC upcoming conference via the Facebook page, Twitter using the hashtag IOCPrev2020, and their website. Again, thank you very much to the wonderful and brilliant guest, Dr. Andrew Murray. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Thanks very much, Tom. Just one last thing, Mike Foy and Lance Gill are doing a fantastic workshop on golf as well at the IOC conference. So that's further brilliant content at the conference to do with golf. Thanks a million for the chance to contribute. Really looking forward to catching up with loads of folk at Monaco.
No, my pleasure. It should be a good one. If you enjoyed this episode, keep your eyes peeled for our next upcoming live event. I've been Thomas Axon. I hope you've enjoyed this evening and learnt something new. I certainly have.